Welcome and thank you for being here this morning. Mark and I have been through a fun ride with our small business experience, and we'd like to share a little bit of that with you this morning.
Our entrepreneurial journey. Basically, why work 8 hours a day for someone else when you can work 16 hours a day for yourself?
How many here actually put in? How many here actually put in an 8-hour day, like a straight 8-hour day?
Never straight in a row.
So we're going to cover some topics this morning, 4 main areas that we'd like to explore, and hope you'll relate with the experiences that we've been through, and we're open to questions and comments as we go through this experience, this journey together.
My background started in the automotive industry, having grown up in Detroit. So it was cars and trucks mostly. I went to the University of Michigan. I worked for Ford Motor Company, and there's actually, I found a picture online of a car I actually had, a 1976 Granada. Yeah, it was a very vinyl top, all that. Then I went to Rockwell International Automotive Operations, which made heavy trucks, brakes, axles, drivetrains. Then I went to General Dynamics and played war games on a computer, having battles in Europe and the deserts of the Middle East with conceptual tank vehicles. They made the M1 Abrams tank. From there, I went to Colgate-Palmolive in New York City and switched from automotive to consumer products, which really defined the rest of my career since then. And I worked in a Latin America division, bringing world-class logistics solutions, and we redid the entire warehouse network. Took an early retirement from Colgate and came to Chicago to work for the company that makes Sharpies. Papermate, Waterman, Parker Pens, which is Sanford Brands, the office products division of Newell. And that's what brought me out to this part of the country.
And I spent, fortunately, most of my corporate life with one company, which is not usual these days, especially with the turnover rate. 17 years spent in hospital products. I studied biochem early on and found my love affair with beakers, test tubes, and flasks, which you'll hear a little bit about later on. Too much to resist, so it took me to Abbott Lab, and I worked 17 years primarily with IV solutions, phase 1, phase 2 prep, and then 7 more years with global pharmaceutics, branching out into gels, capsules, tablets, again with phase 1 through phase 4 clinical, creating clinical material for trial studies. And again, my best friends at that time throughout those years were beakers, test tubes, flasks in a laboratory setting. So not a lot of human interaction other than to the occasional report and occasional visits to clinics and hospitals with the to witness the end product in use. In 2005, the company started to take more and more of their clinical manufacturing overseas. And I was caught in the crossroads between continuing to pursue a position within the industry or accept early retirement and branch out and explore, see what was out there besides the corporate life. So that's what took place in 2005.
My entrepreneurial journey really began in 2008 and 9 during the start of the Great Recession. I like to think I coined that term because I started using it, I think, earlier than I heard it from others, but I get absolutely no credit in the media I see from that.
You should advertise.
I should. I should learn to sell more, but that will come up later. I wasn't let go because of the recession. We just had a new group vice president come in who wanted his own guys in there. It just happened to be September of 2008. Our whole management team was swept out, and I was like, wow, good timing. And I quickly found out that there was lots of people looking for jobs. Being a statistician, when you have millions of people looking for jobs and there's like 6 jobs, it's really hard to get one. So I decided, okay, I've got to do something else. And there was lots of good people looking for jobs, many of whom I've met in networking since then, and they all seem to be about my age or gender. I'm 22. No, people, white males in their mid-50s, wow, not a good time to be looking for a job in 2008, 2009.
So in a similar vein, back in 2005, I took the package offered to me by my company and branched out and immediately found myself enjoying the freedom and also not exactly enjoying the lack of security that comes with it after you've been used to steady paychecks, benefits, profit sharing, and the whole 9 yards. So I just knew at that point I wanted to try something different. I had a little bit of IT experience toward the end of my time with Abbott, hanging out with IT in order to fill in the time that was available to me with the lack of work in the lab. So I grew fond of watching the guys do their thing, creating websites, intranet sites primarily with encryption technology and security layers and all that fun stuff. I got a taste of the IT world and I knew then that I wanted more. But where to start was the big challenge for me because I knew how they operated, but for me to branch out on my own and develop that platform, it's a whole different world.
Remember, there was a lot of people looking for jobs and not a lot of jobs. So I came up with a unique idea that I know no one else in my demographic had come up with. Hey, I'll hang out my own shingle. I'll be a consultant. What a great idea. And actually it worked out pretty good because the first job fell right in my lap within the first 2 weeks. I'm like, wow, this is easy. They talk about selling. How hard can selling be? And that first job, to build off what Eddie said, was to do due diligence for a company that was looking to buy some real estate, a small property, malls, and they needed someone to look at the logistics operations. When I got the gig, the first thing I did was pick up my phone, and I was going to delegate parts out like I was still sitting on top of an organization of hundreds of people. Wait, I can't do that. I got to do it all myself. The second job fell in my lap, and it lasted 2 years. I was essentially the executive, the vice president of inventory management, outsourced though, as a contractor at WMS, the gaming company over here. And that lasted 2 years. That was easy. And then
hanging out my own shingles was more of a challenge because I was well versed in how to operate in the corporate world. And I just tried to grab every piece of experience I could, especially wrapped around website development, to start my own web development company. One thing that helped me was having 19 years of experience running the Abbott Lab corporate hockey team, which developed into 4 teams, which developed into a 10-team league in Lake County based off the rink in Gurnee for a while and then up in Pleasant Prairie. We needed a place to showcase standings, statistics, action pictures, etc. And it was a fun time, especially back in the 90s when websites were quite primitive and we still try to cram in as much information as we could on those sites. But one thing it taught me was the power of communication and the reach of communication, because we had players on the team from all over the world, different countries, and we would get emails and text messages and we would get notifications back that, man, that series of pictures and those comments covering that game were awesome. And these are folks in Germany, in Poland, in Ireland. It was eye-opening for me. So I knew I wanted more of that because I saw the satisfaction in the players when they would hear back from their families and their friends from overseas. So I knew that was a big part of what was coming our way. It was just a matter of how to harness that and package it in a way to satisfy those customers I wanted to take care of. And then
we get into the early myths, the dispelling of the early myths, and the realization of the harsh realities. And for me, the harsh reality was sales, business development, and keeping that pipeline full. So prospecting, closing, servicing I was pretty good at because I was selling services in a field that I was a subject matter expert. But keeping the business development pipeline full as a solopreneur, that's not easy to do, especially when you're working full-time on a project.
Wearing many, many hats. I was spoiled, and I didn't know it at the time when I was working for Abbott, because I had everybody within a 4-digit phone call. It's like bang, 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 bang. I need this. I have trouble with that. This is glitching on me. I need a new mouse for my, or keyboard. Whatever I needed, it was there. So that convenience was no longer there. I had to do it all myself, wear a whole bunch of different hats. And then on top of that, just what we're doing today was not easy, especially back in '05. Reaching out, getting to know people in the business world, introducing yourself, standing up in front of an audience. It's one thing when you have a report that's prepared and you know specifically what you're going to say. That's one thing. Coming up here and sharing of yourself, your values, your beliefs, the experiences you've had taking care of other clients, and what you'd like to do for you folks, that's a whole different ballgame. Yeah, so it's like meet like real people. That was a big thing for me. And expanding niches and markets is like, okay, niches and markets. Trying to get that piece understood. And again, missing out on a time and a half, the bonuses, profit sharing, all that fun stuff. Those were some of the harsh realities I was facing back in the beginning of this.
When I did an assessment of myself, I looked at what were my assets and where were there skills that I needed to be developed and trained in. Well, I'm a subject matter expertise in my field. I can advise large and small companies what to do. And the way I approach consulting is teaching people to fish. You know, that old adage of if I teach them to fish, they'll be able to feed themselves and call me back for more business when they want to do something else. The skills that I needed training and development in was sales and marketing in every aspect of that. I spent an entire career, if you know anything about people that work in operations or supply chain, sales are their greatest allies and their greatest critics of each other. Why are you selling product A? I told you we don't have product A. You forecast you were going to sell product B. Why aren't you selling that? How hard can that be? Well, after I started selling on my own, I called back every salesperson that I had a good relationship with and said, hey, I've walked like a half mile in your shoes. Wow. And they're like, see, I told you. And then finances, as Eddie pointed out. You know, you're used to that paycheck. Paycheck is a good thing. It comes every time. Whether you put out 1,000% effort or 75% effort, not me, but other people, you still get the paycheck. Now you got to go out, you're a hunter-killer. And the kind of sales I'm talking about is not account management. This is, hunter-killer, food gatherer kind of selling, which is a different kind of selling than account management. So when my assets, I was pretty dynamic and confident about those. But when it came to the skills that you really needed to go out and get business, I was tentative. And I'll even say afraid. You see me up here speaking, I'm not afraid to stand in front of groups of people and speak, but that's because I'm talking about stuff that I know about. When I'm taking those tentative steps, I'm tentative and a little bit afraid. Eddie. Oh, it's still mine. We found this as something to look at. So are you an entrepreneurial individual in a company versus someone that's an entrepreneur outside of an organization? You've seen people in companies that are entrepreneurial inside the company. They're movers, they're shakers, they're doers, all of those things. And when I looked at those skills, problem solving, creativity, persuasiveness, planning, negotiating, decision making, I was pretty good at that. I could flip a coin if I needed to make a decision, if I could frame it in a yes-no. The attributes of self-confidence, autonomous, achievement-oriented, all that stuff I was pretty good at in my subject matter within the confines of an organization where I was, a cog. But extend that out. Now I'm talking about the proactivity and the innovation and the change, and it's just a bigger, fuzzier, amorphous thing that you got to make sense of, because you're, as Eddie said, you're doing everything. You're the chief cook and bottle washer.
Wearing multiple hats. I mean, for myself, the challenges that I was facing were packaging the skills that I knew I had in the proper way for others to see and others to buy into. Because it's one thing when you're satisfying the corporate world, that comes preset. It's almost preceding you through the door when you're walking into a meeting. And again, to Arlene's great introduction today, most of you may not know everything that is surrounding me. 19 years, 40 years, practically a member of USA Hockey. It's still a big part of my life. And how that translates into the business world is just in the competitive nature, the organizational skills, not just learning how to run a team of 19 to 20 players, but organize a league of close to 200 and submit them to USA sanctioned tournaments, booking venues, travel, getting the referees involved. I mean, we see the games now in the Olympics, and we see the final product. And there's a whole lot that goes into that, making sure that you have frozen pucks available, the statisticians, the scorekeepers, the lights, the whole 9 yards. So there's a lot that goes into it. So grabbing some of those experiences to make sure that as you're organizing your product, your packages, your services, that is done in a way where people see and are attracted to the organization that you're bringing, because that in turn will help their business. For myself, again, the subject matter expert came into play with the knowledge of websites and multi-channel integration, because I realized that Facebook is going to be a player in this niche. Social media, people just love to share of themselves and share pictures, share experiences, and cross-linking that information through blogs and websites is valuable, very valuable, especially in the business world. So the exposure to new startups and small business owners was the key for me to watch and learn from those that are already where I want to be. Able to draw from experience and to speak their language was also beneficial, because obviously the online lingo is a little different than what we speak day to day. The skills develop quickly to know and to be ahead of the curve, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn primarily, and in learning that there's a lot of value in taking what you do and package it to where you can teach others and coach. And that was taking my hockey sports league experience into the world of your social media network and small business development center at the College of Lake County. And then most recently, taking that product into the Tech Hub Incubator, which we're looking forward to working closely with. It is live in color and available for new business startups. So a whole lot more. We're going to talk about that later this morning.
So part of my harsh reality is the difficulty in business development and sales. That's something I've had to work on. Much like Eddie with hockey, I play Armenian, Turkish, Arabic folk music. I have a band. I've been booking bands in both New York and now in Chicago. I had no problem selling that. It was something I knew, and I've done that all along. But when it came, there's a lot of people doing what I'm doing in terms of supply chain consulting, and everybody's promising the same thing. One thing that I learned recently, I worked on a project where we did an offering memorandum for the sale of a rental car company. I also had to make some cold calls. Oh man, cold calls, really? To people that might be interested in receiving the signing a non-disclosure agreement, receiving the offering memorandum. So I went on LinkedIn and took the signed companies that I had to look at, and I was looking at some smaller leasing companies and international rental car companies. It's amazing when you're selling a hard asset that immediately will add to the top or bottom line of a company. You get phone calls back immediately, whether they end up actually being interested or not, but they're interested in something that immediately will add to their top and bottom line. Now, of course, you can read all the sales books in the world, and it says you have to frame your message that way. Well, duh. Some things, don't drink all that, don't smoke that big cigar, you're going to get sick when you're 15 years old. You have to just try it to experience it. So once I realized that, oh my God, I have to repackage and rebrand and resell and get more confidence in what I do to sell it and deliver that message. So that's my challenge right now. And when it comes back to working in a corporation, because sometimes I think, well, I'll just go back in. Well, guess what? I've been out too long. They don't want me. That's a good thing they don't want me, because I don't think if I went back I could work there, because I'd hate every political darn minute of it.
I know the harsh realities with me are similar, that once you experience politics in a corporate structure, I mean, you have to respect it and deal with it, especially if you want to continue getting your biweekly paychecks. You got to play the game, so to speak. In the corporate world, it's a little, the entrepreneurial world, it's a little different, because you're basically making your own rules. You're setting your own standards. You are defining your schedule, and you're developing the discipline to carry things through, even if it means being up until 2 o'clock in the morning, which I hardly ever do. And again, the interaction with humans, breaking the ice and such, was an initial challenge for me. Getting better at it, but I know Toastmasters, which I'm looking so forward to this year, is going to be a key to developing more of the comfort in front of a crowd, in front of an audience, to share the value of being a member of GWDC, participating in Tech Up Incubator activities, supporting each other's initiatives, showcasing the talent that's in the room. Those are the things that I look forward to this year. Yeah, flasks, beakers, and test tubes never said no to me, like people do. So that's a lesson early on that I needed to learn, how to take no and move forward and continue and continue and continue before I got that yes. Where's the BOP? Who here knows what a BOP is? Basic operational procedures? That's what a BOP is. That's from the chemical world. Where's the BOP on selling? So I had to kind of figure things out on the fly. The only funnel I knew back when I first started my own business was in the kitchen. So what the heck's this funnel that everybody's talking about, developing your funnel. And support department for this and for that. Again, the convenience of having things at your fingertips as opposed to having to just do it yourself. So, and last but not least for me, and I don't know how many of you can relate to this, but especially early on, I wanted to think I had it all figured out. So I was stubborn to a fault and afraid to ask for fear of either sounding dumb or, just the fear of asking, of reaching out. Hey, I can't quite figure this out. Can you help me? Who here understands this piece? We're in this group. There's so much value in here that everybody's always available to help you out. Those are some of my harsh realities. So where are we today and where are we heading?
Well, my company, first of all, I was an AFAB consultant. Anybody know what an AFAB consultant is? Anything for $1. Oh. I mean, I'll paint your garage if the fee's right. AFAB, yeah, use it as your own. I think I borrowed it from someone else. So I started off as CR Supply Chain Consulting, but because of opportunities that also, were in line with my skill set, I branched out into 2 other parts, business writing and now analytics. So I'm probably going to rebrand my company as CR Consulting, and it's going to be CR Supply Chain, CR Business Writing, and CR Analytics. So it's 3 legs of the stool, basically. The supply chain consulting is where I'm rooted. It's where most of my corporate life was spent. So I help manufacturing companies and distribution companies in their warehousing, distribution, quality, production planning, sales and operations planning, forecasting, all of those things. I'm pretty good at that, and that's kind of the sweet spot of where I work. But because I also do a lot of writing, I write every day, 500 words. I have a personal blog, a business blog. A company needed help, a small company needed help responding to a request for a proposal on 26% of their business. If they lost that business, they were probably going to go under. So they said, we want to do a really good response. My name came to them as someone that had worked in corporations and could help them put that polish on it. So I went in, and it was great because they came with their shoebox like they go to an accountant, full of all the stuff. They had all the stuff, they just couldn't put it together. I mean, I did really creative stuff like took their logo off their website and the customer logo off their website and put it on the cover of the proposal. Crazy stuff. I made all the Excel financial parts have the same look and feel to them. How hard is that to do? I said, hey, why don't we put bios of all your corporate executives, your company executives, with little pictures next to them in the back. And I just prettied it up, and I took their writing and made it better. And I told everyone I knew how much fun I had doing this, because I was most of the time in gym shorts and a t-shirt working by dual screens in my own house, while I started getting other jobs for business plans, strategic plans, and anything that people don't want to write that's longer than an email. So I speak business, I write well. I don't speak too good, but because of that, I ended up also, since I'm teaching statistics everywhere and kind of got used to using Minitab and SPSS, we now have branched into analytics. So I'm using my statistical skills to help companies of all sizes, not only in the supply chain, analyze. I'm kind of a statistician for hire. I've got someone that works with me that does the survey statistics, which is important because I'm not well skilled in that. I'm more industrial statistics. So we do survey creation, analysis, database mining, and analytics for smaller companies. Big companies don't need us. They have Oracles and SAPs and their own people that help them. And we use Access, Excel, Minitab, SPSS. Eddie?
Thank you. From my end, we became comfortable at presenting what we do. And it took a little while to package it enough to where the confidence would be there, as opposed to hiding behind a computer and just trust us, we'll get it for you. To the point where now we've done work for these types of companies, including recent website launch for the College of Lake County and for the University of Indiana. Lake Forest Chamber, we support Small Business Development Center. We create brands, logos, profiles. We put together action items for them to take their marketing, packaging to the next level. This little guy right here is a new endeavor that we're hoping will anchor the foundation for training platform for business startups in the area. And it's something that we've embraced, and we have the blessings of a lot of folks in good places. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that it anchors and it goes smoothly and moves forward very, very quickly. And these three images here are basically social proof. Who here has heard of the term social proof? Okay, that's capturing in print or in image what you claim you can do. I'm surprised you haven't heard this. In other words, by me telling you that I'm getting a little more comfortable standing in front of audiences and doing what I'm doing, instead of having the images to show the fact that now we're able to take our message and our product and our services to whomever has an ear. And that's what I want us to all embrace, because it's a big part of our future. No matter what social media tells you, nothing beats the face-to-face. Part of the Online Enterprises experience, I'm not going to go through them piece by piece, but basically we're very creative with what we can put together for an online brand. A lot of folks come up with us these days and it's like, well, you can do a standard website for us, but we're looking for the wow. We want to stand out. We want to be unique. And obviously, at the end of the day, to positively impact the bottom line. That's what brings us repeat business. And your social media network is just an extension of the social media. It's no longer a fad. It's a part of business. If you're in it, you understand it. If not, you hear everybody else, including your competition, in it. So we put together websites, meetup groups, and blogs to support that initiative, to introduce businesses to the social media world and create your message on the proper platform where people are speaking or searching for your product or your service. Lessons learned?
Well, I watch a movie called Heartbreak Ridge every time it's on TV because I kind of think I'm kind of a Clint Eastwood kind of character. You probably see the resemblance. But the quote that he uses in there all the time is the overcome, adapt, improvise. So we borrowed from the Keep Calm series of posters from World War II, and I added, and I found it online. I didn't add, even though there's sites where you can add your own little message in there. Improvise, adapt, overcome. That's what you have to do as a small business solopreneur or entrepreneur. Never, ever give up. That's also a World War II quote from Churchill. Never, ever, never, never give up. Keep going. Get positive and energetic. You have to be energetic. I look at Ken as a great example of that. No one will hire a sad sack, and no one will return a call of anybody that's mopey. I mean, they're not going to return your call. What's the likelihood of getting your calls returned? But if you really want to make sure that no one returns your call, hi, I'm calling, forget it. It won't work. Learn to excel at business development. It's a process. I teach process management, process development, process improvement. I've learned, of course, the hard way and through experience that sales is a process. There's a natural sales cycle in your business. Unfortunately, in my business, it's way longer than I think it ought to be. And that's not just me. Everybody says that because people, small business owners, are hearing from everybody. They can come in and sell them a service. We'll improve this, we'll do that, and I promise them the world. So you've got to learn and build that trust and get there. So that's kind of my approach, that Clint Eastwood. You got to overcome, adapt, improvise. Keep nimble, keep energetic and upbeat.
Excellent points. And my takeaway for the last 9 years, keeping your focus through the noise, because there's a lot of people selling you, and it kind of ties in with the shiny object syndrome. Get rich quick schemes, and throw your 15 grand here, we'll make you a millionaire by this time next month. The short way to this and that, there's nothing beats hard work. Research, the due diligence, positioning yourself in your market, having that clear communication with your intended target, your ideal customer. Plan your work your plan. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Without action items in front of you and a focus to your goals and meeting your metrics in between, it's kind of hard to achieve anything, especially in business. Seek those who are where you want to be. And it goes back to the beginning where I had a tough time asking questions and reaching out in order for me to learn and get better. I could have shortened my learning curve and my success probably by years had I taken that to heart back in 2005. The dumb question is the one never asked. And that's, again, ties into reaching out and just being a sponge and being open to learning new things. The reward comes only from action and participate. Can't succeed if you're not in it. Standing on the sidelines is great, but I admire folks in this room that I've had interaction with and gotten to know better because of the engagement, the opportunities, the, hey, come with me, I got an idea, I want to run by you. Those are valuable times. So let's embrace them. I appreciate your time.